Okay, guys. Last week we left off with speakers. Does anybody have any questions about speakers? What we covered last week. Did y'all use it? It's okay. Just say it. No? Perfect. All right. Well, this week we're going to be doing conflicts. And the different conflicts that there are, you know, there's trouble scans, there's conflicts, trouble scans, there's a few different conflicts, and they'll be showing you some here, and we'll talk about them a little bit. And it's telling you right here, don't skip this chapter just because you don't have any conflicts in your dictionary, or you think you don't, because you probably do. You know, if you have a weak finger or whatever, you know, and you drag, you know, extra strokes into your into how you're writing, then it's going to create a conflict, you know, especially if you do it all the time, okay? So it's not bad to have them, you know, so, and if you're interested in improving your translation, even during real-time transcription, then this is kind of the way to do it, okay?
Eclipse is famous for intelligent conflict resolution. Let's see how it works. See how it works. Here, the word table is an untranslate, although it's been intelligently guessed. I'll define it as a conflict. A backslash will separate each conflict choice from the next.
You see what they're doing right here?
I'll also include a command that tells the system that if a number follows...
You see what they're doing right here? Is they're creating a conflict between the regular way that you write table and if you're going to be talking about a specific table, okay? Which needs to be capitalized, okay? And it's going to know that it needs to be capitalized when it's used with a number. That tells it that there's a number, okay? The way that you do it is like this, okay? You have to have the brackets, you have to have the number sign, which indicates that it comes with a number, and then the N, which indicates that it is a number, okay? Or a numeral. Okay? Does that make sense?
Would you have to put in another type of option if it was a case of table A, table B, table C, table D?
Yeah. Because this is only telling it with numbers.
Numbers.
Yeah.
So how would you tell it to capitalize with an alphabetic letter?
I'm not even sure. I don't even know if it tells you. I've never had that. I've never had that question. I've never had it come up. You know, so I'm not sure. I'd have to do some research on that. But this is the way that you do it for a numeral. And I'll do that research and I'll look it up or whatever. So it's telling you to convert it to a numeral form, not a written form. Okay? So this is the way that you want it, in a numeral form. Not table 12, TWELVE, okay? You want table 12, okay? And this is the way that you do it. You do it with the backslash, not the slash. Y'all know what the slash is? The slash is the one that comes this way, the other way. So you want to be careful the way you set it up, because it's not going to work if you use it with the slash. You need the backslash, okay?
The number should be in numeral form, not written form. This conflict will go in my main dictionary. This will actually be two conflicts back to back. Your is a conflict that was resolved by the computer. Here, choice 1 is correct. Here you see that you can have different colors to display the conflicts that you yourself have picked, as opposed to those that the computer has picked and those that have yet to be resolved. You also notice that the dictionary indicates that Eclipse Artificial Intelligence has learned one rule for resolving this conflict in the future. Each time you select a conflict choice, Eclipse can learn from your editing. The more you use it, the smarter it gets. You can always select a different conflict choice if necessary. The number for each choice is displayed in the status bar at the lower left of your screen.
Okay, this is what it's telling you also. This is kind of like the magic keys over here. So it might have it in the magic keys over here, but you always have it down here too. So if for some reason your magic keys aren't on, this will usually tell you down here in the status bar or whatever. So you can select it from there. So it's going to give you the different options of what it thinks. You know, is it doctor and you forgot the name, you dropped the name or whatever. So you just select the one that it's needed.
But you can also right-click on a conflict to see its choices and pick the one.
You see what they're telling you there? So even when you have questions about what it could be, right-click and it'll give you the different options. And it gives you punctuation options also. Okay? It's pretty neat, guys. I mean, and the more you use it, the more you mess with it, the more it's only going to help you. Okay?
One that is correct.
All right, are there any questions about that? Pretty simple, but, you know. Okay, here they're telling you the new steno, voice writers or whatever, can often mean more than one thing. In the past, reporters had no choice but to change their steno technique to avoid such conflicts. So you always had to do something different. Now you don't have to do it different. You know, the software is going to help you. The artificial intelligence in that software is going to help you. So the more you use it, the more it's going to know what you're doing. And it tells you right here, not all conflicts are alike, okay? There are at least 4 kinds of conflicts, and Eclipse resolves all of them pretty well, okay? But, you know, if you have a conflict with these 3, you're not writing very well, okay? You should not be writing these the same. They shouldn't be anywhere close to the same, okay? But if they are, then this is how you do it and set it up as a conflict. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Here, punctuation conflicts. You know, it'll give you different options. Stylistic conflicts. You know, the day-to-day or the hyphen day-to-day. So if it's a day-to-day rigmarole of whatever, blah, 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 then you know, it would be this one, you know, but from day to day, he goes to the park, you know, so stacking conflicts also, and we talked about that a little bit, you know, how sometimes if you put the suffix at the end and it stacks with the next word, and how to resolve that. Okay, so if you're doing it a lot and you find that you're doing it a lot with a certain stroke, then this is how you resolve it into a conflict like this. Okay, or you can put it into your dictionary that it's always going to be, you know, that way, because you tend to, you know, just drag that finger with that certain suffix or whatever and with the certain word. Does that make sense? Thank you, Steve-O. Okay, the artificial intelligence built into Eclipse allows it to resolve conflicts with amazing precision. So the more you use it, the better it's going to get. So it only knows what you tell it to do. You know, and I can't stress that enough, guys. Even if you've worked out many conflicts in your technique, you can take advantage of this power. Consider it a tool, not just a remedy. Okay? So it's there to help you. These four kinds of conflicts are not an all or nothing proposition. Perhaps you don't have much need to work four-word conflicts or punctuation conflicts. That doesn't mean that you couldn't benefit from using the stylistic conflicts or stacking conflicts, okay? Is it back in? Perfect. So, each time that you resolve a conflict, Eclipse is learning grammar. It's learning your grammar, okay? Not just memorizing phrases. So a large number of grammar rules for each conflict in your main dictionary, okay? It can learn from what you're doing. So the more you use it, the better it's going to become, okay? All right.
Here's an important tip concerning Eclipse Artificial Intelligence. Artificial Intelligence. It only learns new rules when you place your cursor on a conflict and pick the correct choice. If instead you just place your cursor on a conflict and just type new text, Eclipse learns nothing. In other words, Eclipse...
Did you understand that? That's exactly what I've been telling you this whole time. If you just type it in, it's not learning anything from what you're just typing in. It's not learning anything, okay?
Can learn when you pick a conflict, but not when you type over it. Also, you should make your first conflict choice the more likely one. Then, in the Translate section of your user settings, you'll be able to ask Eclipse to pick the first choice when it otherwise would not know how to resolve a conflict.
You understand what it's telling you there? There's a thing that you can go into your user settings to always pick the first choice. Okay? So if you don't do the other one very often, you can select this. But if it's something that you kind of mess up, and I say mess up, maybe that's the wrong word, but it's something that you tend to do quite a bit with both of them, then you want to leave it as a conflict that you're going to resolve. Okay? But it doesn't matter, because once you put your cursor on the word, it's automatically going to know it in the in Magic Keys. So more than likely over here, it's going to give you the option to change it anyway. Okay?
Sometimes a conflict will occur in an exceptional context, and you'll want to pick a conflict choice but not teach a context rule. If so, just hold down the Shift key and press the conflict choice number. That will take care of the exception without affecting what the artificial intelligence has learned. Much more could be said about conflicts, but this is the subject of a separate in-depth ePower video tutorial that includes a conflicts kit with dictionaries that contain hundreds of entries that have already learned how to resolve beautifully. So this is a great way to take full advantage of Eclipse translation magic.
Any questions about that?
Every time he gives us a narrative about a subject, he says this is more involved and there's an e-tutorial for it. Is there a way to get to them?
Yeah, you have to go on to the
and pay how much?
I don't know, as a student, that you probably would. I don't think you could probably call them and check on it.
Okay.
But I don't think you would. So if you, I mean, and there's some things, especially like conflicts, numbers, I mean, they really get in depth on, on some of these things. So, I mean, they just kind of give you the basics of what you're going to need. Okay. Okay, now they're going to talk about slop strokes. Okay, and these are These are strokes that, you know, you tend to mess up quite a bit or whatever. And occasionally, you know, you will want to global steno, which is a slop stroke, okay, for a conflict that is already defined in your dictionary. So if you do it often, then you may want to put it in your dictionary, okay? You may want to put it in there. But just make sure that it really doesn't conflict with anything else, because then it, you know, then it can kind of mess up your dictionary or whatever. But it is just considered a slop stroke.
Let's see how to define slop strokes for speaker and conflict entries in your dictionary. Here's an untranslate. This steno is not defined in my dictionary. I was trying to write the steno NUBS. Instead, I wrote NUBZ. I could define this as a new conflict in my dictionary, but this conflict would have to begin learning context rules from scratch. In other words, I'd like my new conflict to resolve as well as the older conflict that's been in my dictionary for a while. Here's how to define a slop stroke. At the globaling dialog, you can press Ctrl-E to open the special entries list. Then press the End key. Slop stroke is at the end of the list. When the steno entry dialog opens, use your computer keyboard to type the letters of the steno that you were trying to write. In other words, the steno that belongs to your master stroke, and press Enter or OK.
You understand what it's telling you there?
Does this mean that when I type NUBZ on the keyboard, it's going to know to print, to think NUBS?
Yeah. And that's what it's telling you right here. You want to put the first stroke first, the one that you were trying to stroke. And then it's going to tell you here in just a second how to do it for the one that you misstroked, and then what to do afterwards. But this is what it's telling you. I just want to make sure that you guys are following along. Got it?
This will go in my main dictionary. When I pick conflict choice 1 here, if this is a new context rule that Eclipse did not know before, letters of the steno that you were trying to write. In other words, the steno that belongs to your master stroke, and press Enter or OK. This will go in my main dictionary. When I pick conflict choice 1 here, if this is a new context rule that Eclipse did not know before, it will be added to the artificial intelligence for the conflict entry that is my master entry. So slop strokes point to your master entry. Slop stroke entries are primarily designed to help conflict resolution, but they can also help with speakers. So you might have one speaker entry and a large number of slop stroke entries. So if you changed the text for the master entry, you would not have to change any of the slop stroke entries.
You understand what it was telling you there?
Not exactly.
Let me play it again.
Let's see, we'll go in my main dictionary. When I pick conflict choice 1 here, if this is a new context rule that Eclipse did not know before, it will be added to the artificial intelligence for the conflict entry that is my master entry. So slop strokes point to your master entry. Slop stroke entries are primarily designed to help conflict resolution, but they can also help with speakers. So you might have one speaker entry and a large number of slop stroke entries. So if you changed the text for the master entry, you would not have to change any of the slop stroke entries.
So what it's saying was, if you wanted to change what it meant, you know, say you wrote the court reporter. Well, you know what? I want to change it. I want to change it to just the reporter. Okay? You don't have to go through and 97 different times tell it to change the court reporter to the reporter. All you have to do is change it in the text, and then it knows every time you stroke out this, all the 97 times, if you did it 97 different ways, then it already knows to change it for that every time. That's what it's telling you to do and how to do it. Okay? Got that? All right. Any questions about that? Slop strokes? Okay, and here it's just kind of telling you about, you know, when you're defining a conflict in your dictionary, the backslash separates conflict choices. Okay? Not the slash. The backslash separates it. Okay? Okay, and this is just a little exercise right here of how you want to do and put them into your dictionary if that's how you want to do it. You know, so it's a little exercise. So if you want to go through and do it, I mean, you can on your own time or whatever. So, do y'all have any questions about it? About conflicts? Slop strokes? No? Okay, punctuation conflicts. Okay, at high speeds, you know, the writing of commas can become inconsistent. You know, if you think you're fast enough to put semicolons, colons, you know, stuff like that, sometimes, you know, they'll be going so fast, but you may be writing well that day, or you think you are, and you just kind of stack it with something else. So, and that's okay. I mean, there's ways to kind of fix that too. But it says, Eclipse is not a mind reader. Do not expect the system to make highly subjective judgments about whether a comma or a period is more appropriate to convey the speaker's tone of voice. Even so, conflicts that involve commas can greatly improve your translation and thus reduce your editing time. And that's what we're trying to do right here, is trying to improve your editing time and reduce it, okay? Okay. The braces are used to give a comma all of the punctuation behaviors it needs, such as attaching to a preceding word. So, you know, when you're in the word in front of it and you want the comma behind it, all you have to do when you're in hyperkeys is just push comma. Say you're here, you want a comma here, all you have to do is press the comma. It automatically attaches it to the next word. We haven't been going that. We'll go a little bit longer. Thank you, though. Okay? Okay, so here it's telling you how to set up different conflicts with your punctuation. And this is how you do it. Okay, so if it's something that you kind of do all the time, you know that, that a yes in the middle of a sentence is probably going to need a comma on both sides of the yes, then you know there's certain ways of doing it, and this is the way that you set it up. Okay, you have to do it like this, guys, because if not, it's not going to know what you're doing. Okay, and it'll cut down a little bit of time. I'll be honest with you, I don't really use it. I don't, but I mean, if you want to, it's kind of a good way to do it. You know, after no sir, and if it's going to stand alone, then it's fine. But if it's not, and it's with another sentence, it's always going to need a comma. Okay? So you can go in there and manually put the comma, or you can tell it that it's always going to need the comma afterwards, which is one of your choices. Okay? And it may be a sentence that stands alone, and it's just no sir. So then you're going to have to go and select number 1. Does that make sense? Kind of self-explanatory, but. Okay, here it's telling you that same thing. I mean, if you're going to go through and do it, especially in a big job, you're really going to get frustrated when, you know, they're saying, well, did you go to the store? No, sir. Did you mean to go to the store? Yes, sir. Was someone going with you to the store? Yes, sir. And if you set it up the way that I showed you, you're going to have to select no, sir, yes, sir, no, sir, every time. You know, because it's going to give you the different things in the conflicts if you set it up that way. And that's what it's telling you right here. Don't create a lot of punctuation conflicts in a large job. You'll have to pick them all, and you'll just get frustrated. And it does get frustrating doing it that way. So that's what I'm saying. Be careful, you know, if that's the way that you want to do it. Okay? That's just a little exercise that you can go through if you want to define these things or whatever. And it's just kind of showing you how to set it up. This is the exercise, and then these are the answers. So if you want to go through and set it up, then this is the way that you define it. Okay? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. I think it's kind of pointless, but you know, if y'all want to go through and work the exercise, you can, just to kind of show you how it needs to be set up. Okay, and here is the different stylistic conflicts that we were talking about, you know, with table 12, whatever. And it's telling you, you know, when you put the number symbol, that it's going to convert it to numerals. And that's what it's calling for. Don't forget to surround this command with the braces. Okay? The braces is what tells it what to do. So it's very important that you do it this way. Setting it up this way calls for numerals instead of written out numbers. Okay, so like a Bates number, you know, is going to be written out. It's not going to be ONE-TWO-THREE, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's going to be written out this way, and it's going to know that it needs to be written out this way. And these are the different ways of setting it up if you want different strokes to be written in different ways. So if you know that it needs to be in a quantity, this is the way that you do it. Okay? The bracket number sign with a capital Q tells it that it needs to be quantity. Okay? Same thing with Roman numerals. So you don't have to do all of that stuff. You can already define it to know that that's what you want. Okay? And this is the way that you set it up. You know, and it's especially good right here when you're setting it up with marking your exhibits. Okay? You always know that it's going to be in numeral form. It's always going to be deposition exhibit number 1 with the number 1, not O and E. Okay? Make sense? And this is just another little exercise that they have here at the end. And the answers. So if you want to go through and define it, you know, it's going to tell you how to define, you know, certain, you know, exhibit numbers, if you want it in numeral form, how you want it. Okay? Any questions about any of that? Not super tough, but okay, and this is just talking about stacking strokes again, and how it can greatly improve your translation if you do it all the time, you know. But it can conflict with other strokes that you have. So you have to be a little bit careful. So you may have to set it up in a conflict, okay? So set it up in a conflict. If that's the way that you write agriculture, AG, it's not for me, but whatever. Then you put it as agriculture, if that's what you use most of the time, or suffix ing with the word that was preceding, and then a. Okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Pretty easy, but I mean, you know, with the different stuff too, as you know, suffix s with to. And some of these things I kind of do quite a bit too. You know, whether I'm writing too fast or just sloppy writing. I mean, it's in there and it's clear, but it's stacked, and the computer doesn't know what you're trying to do. So that is the way that I write TOS. Also, sometimes I write it TOSZ, but if not, you know, and you didn't put the Z on there, then it's gonna think, you know, that you meant to write TOS. But it could be suffix S and TO also. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay. That's the end of that. Any questions about conflicts? No? Okay. Now we're going to go into numbers. Guys, this section is really important. Okay, numbers is really important in this software. So, you know, really pay attention to this, and I really want you guys to work on this stuff this week too, okay?
With Eclipse, 2 basic steps will give you excellent number translation. Fine-tune your dictionary, and fine-tune your numbers settings. Pure number bar strokes aren't even necessary in your dictionary. Other numbers building blocks will be defined as words, not digits. 100, 1,000, million describe orders of magnitude. Write the word dollars when you hear it, not before, and it, like other money words, will trigger number conversion with the appropriate currency symbol.
Do you understand what it's telling you there? What you're going to do is when you're stroking out numbers, you're always going to write them out. It doesn't matter if it's $1,478.67. And they're going to go through it here in a little bit. When you do the 1,000, it's ONE. 1,000. And it doesn't matter if you did the 1. If you do the number bar, it doesn't matter. When you put it in your dictionary, it needs to be defined as ONE. Okay?
If a number doesn't translate right, it's probably because of an old dictionary entry. Remove such entries and your building blocks will work properly. A separate presentation deals with finding and moving entries in and out of your dictionary. Occasionally you'll want to convert numbers after translation. Mark the number first, then click on the toolbar icon, or use the menu or the speed key, Control and the pound key together. Here you see your number as it starts out, and as it would look depending on which format you choose. However, your numbers settings will control, and so the gear icon takes you quickly to adjust those settings. Within the short presentation,
Did you understand what it was saying there? It's a little bit confusing. But did you understand what it was telling you there? Yes. No.
I did, because as a word processor, we have the same kind of format when creating and translating numbers.
Yeah. But do you
Not
know how to
because of
do
the
it
way
in
he
Eclipse?
explained it. I understood it because I had that experience before.
But you have to know how to do it in Eclipse to know for it to work. So I'm going to back it up a little bit. Yeah. Let me stop it right here, guys, and then we'll go into that.